If she couldn't feel her legs, why didn't anyone leave her to nap? What's really going on? I lost all feeling in my legs, and my dad told me to walk it off. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. How could he say that? How could he brush it off like it was nothing? It wasn't nothing. It started as a strange tingling in my legs. I thought maybe I'd just overdone it at practice. A little numbness here and there, nothing major. But when I woke up the next day, the tingling had spread into something worse. Much worse. It was like my legs weren't even mine anymore. I could see them. I could touch them. But I couldn't feel them. Not one bit. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Olivia, stop being dramatic, my dad said as I stood in front of him, trying to get my legs to move. I could feel his eyes on me, like I was a child trying to get out of doing chores. He laughed it off. Walk it off! You're fine. But I wasn't fine. I could feel the panic rising in my chest, bubbling up, trying to choke me. I couldn't feel my legs. I looked down at them again, half expecting them to start working, as if they'd magically respond to the thought. But nothing happened. They just hung there. I tried to take a step forward. Nope, my foot wouldn't even lift off the ground. Dad, I said, my voice shaking, I can't feel them. I really can't feel them. He rolled his eyes. You're fine, Liv, just a little tired maybe. But I wasn't tired. Not like this. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to get his attention, make him understand. But all I could do was stand there frozen, my heart pounding, my legs locked in place. He didn't see it. He didn't see how terrifying it was. And neither did I. Not yet. My name's Olivia Morgan, but my friends call me Ollie. I'm 15, and I've been running track since I was 10. It's my thing. My thing. I'm not one to quit or give in. Even when my muscles burn and I'm gasping for air, I push through the pain because that's what winners do, right? But this wasn't just pain. It was something else. Something I couldn't understand. I tried to stand again. Nothing. This wasn't the usual tired legs after practice feeling. This was different. My legs weren't sore. They were absent. I couldn't even feel the weight of them beneath me. The ground should have been pressing against my feet, but nothing. I'm fine, I whispered to myself, but my voice didn't convince me. Then there was my dad, Steve Morgan. He was the guy everyone turned to when they needed advice, the guy who fixed things with his hands, literally and figuratively. When something broke, he could fix it. He didn't believe in wasting time with doctors or whining about injuries. He believed in power, in strength. And I guess I just wasn't strong enough for him in that moment. My mum wasn't home, so it was just him and me. I knew what he was thinking. I could almost see it on his face. She's just being dramatic. She's fine. But I wasn't fine. Why couldn't I feel my legs? Was it something I did? Did I push too hard during practice? Was I imagining it? I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just a weird glitch in my body. People go through weird phases sometimes, right? Maybe this was one of those. But even as I thought that, something deep inside me knew this wasn't normal. I stared at my legs again, willing them to move, but they remained lifeless. And the scariest part, the part that made my chest tighten and my breath come in short gasps, the fact that I couldn't explain it, I couldn't understand what was happening to me. Ollie, you're fine. Just walk it off, my dad said again, his voice so certain, so dismissive. I can't, I whispered under my breath, barely hearing myself over the pounding in my ears. But my dad had already turned his back to me, walking away like it was just another one of my teenage moments, something to laugh off and forget. I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just another moment. Something was wrong, very wrong. This wasn't just about being unable to feel my legs. This was about something much deeper. Something I wasn't ready to face. This was about my body betraying me. And no one, especially not my dad, was taking me seriously. I had to figure out what was happening. But the real question was, how could I convince anyone that something was wrong if I couldn't even explain it myself? As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized something terrifying. I couldn't move my legs. But I also couldn't ignore the feeling creeping up my spine, telling me it wasn't going away. Tomorrow, I would try to get help. I would find someone who would listen. But tonight, I couldn't even bring myself to tell my dad how scared I really was. And as the darkness of the room swallowed me whole, I couldn't stop wondering, was this the beginning of something much worse than I could ever imagine? The next day, I tried to stand again. This time, it wasn't just a feeling of numbness. I couldn't stand at all. My legs? They didn't move. Not a twitch. Not a tremor. I collapsed back on my bed, panic rising like a storm inside me. And this time, I wasn't just worried about my legs, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to walk again. What if I never moved again? I wasn't fine. Not at all. I woke up the next morning hoping that it was all a bad dream. Maybe my legs would work today, maybe it was just a weird one-time thing. But when I tried to move, the same feeling from last night hit me again. My legs felt completely lifeless, like they were made of stone. I lay there for a few seconds, hoping that if I just willed them hard enough, they'd start working again. But nothing. Not even the slightest twitch. Ollie? My dad's voice drifted from the kitchen, loud and gruff. He always had that tone when he thought I was being lazy. Get up! It's already 9 a.m., and we've got a lot to do today. I tried to sit up, but as soon as I moved, it felt like my legs were frozen in place. Panic spread through my chest. I stared down at my legs in disbelief. This wasn't right. I slowly shifted, inching myself closer to the edge of the bed. I reached down to touch my legs, feeling the muscles, the skin, everything. It was all there, just like it should be. But it didn't feel like mine. It didn't feel like I was in control. I put my hands on the floor, trying to push myself up, but the moment I tried to stand, nothing happened. My legs were like rubber, bending in every direction, except the one I wanted. Dad! I called out, my voice shaking. He came rushing in, his face twisting into that familiar expression of annoyance. What now? I told you, you're fine. I can't feel my legs, I said, panic rising in my throat. I swear I can't feel them. He sighed, crossing his arms. You're just tired. You've been pushing yourself too hard. Just get up and walk it off. I looked at him, trying to make him understand. Dad, I can't walk. I can't feel them at all. He rolled his eyes, the disbelief written all over his face. You're fine. You'll be fine. Just stop exaggerating. But I wasn't exaggerating. I wasn't being dramatic. I was terrified. Still, I tried to get up again, hoping that maybe if I did it once more, things would magically fix themselves, but my legs refused to cooperate. I stumbled forward, but instead of standing, I collapsed back onto the bed, this time with even more dread in my chest. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't making it up. I can't walk, Dad. Please, you have to listen to me. He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head, muttering something under his breath. You're fine, Liv. Just tired. Go lay down. We'll talk about this later. The words felt like a slap. The frustration burned in my chest. He wasn't listening. He didn't understand. I wanted to scream at him, to make him see that this wasn't just a normal teenage thing. But instead, I just lay there, my heart racing, feeling completely and utterly helpless. I spent the rest of the day in a haze. Every time I tried to move, my legs felt like dead weight. I couldn't walk. I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything I was used to doing. I was a prisoner in my own body. And the worst part was knowing that my dad still didn't believe me. The longer the day went on, the more I started to worry. Was this something I did? Was it from overexerting myself at practice? Was I imagining all of this? That night, I finally told my mum, who was home by then. She took one look at me and didn't hesitate. We're going to the hospital, now. But I couldn't help but wonder, would anyone listen then? Would anyone finally understand what was happening to me? The next morning, I was in the hospital, sitting in a sterile white room with my mum, waiting for the doctor. I couldn't stop staring at my legs. I tried to move them, but they didn't respond. How could something so simple, walking, become so impossible? The doctor finally walked in. He was a tall man with a serious face, and he didn't waste time on small talk. What's going on? He asked, glancing at me and then at my mum. I can't feel my legs, I managed to say, trying not to break down in front of him. He nodded and motioned for me to lie down on the exam table. After a few tests and questions, he ordered an MRI. It felt like forever as I waited for the results. My mum sat beside me, her face a mix of concern and confusion. She didn't know what was happening, but she was taking me seriously. which was more than I could say for my dad. Finally, the neurologist came back into the room, holding a clipboard and looking at my MRI results. The tension was thick. He didn't look at me right away. He stared at the scan, as if trying to process what he was seeing. After what felt like an eternity, he glanced up at me, his eyes narrowing. "How long has this been going on?" he asked, his voice serious. I swallowed hard. "Just today." He looked at me again, disbelief flashing across his face. "No, this started weeks ago." I froze. Weeks? That couldn't be right. I hadn't noticed anything that serious. But as I thought back, I realized that there had been signs I'd ignored, little moments when my legs didn't feel quite right, when I felt a little off. But I'd pushed through, thinking it was nothing. His face softened, but his tone remained urgent. "We need to operate now." I could feel the panic setting in again. What was happening? What did that mean? I didn't have answers. Not yet. The hospital room felt cold, the kind of cold that seeped deep into your bones and made everything feel a little more real. My legs still wouldn't move, and no matter how many times I willed them to, they stayed still, lifeless. I was stuck in a body that wasn't responding the way it was supposed to. My mum was sitting beside me, her hand wrapped tightly around mine. Her eyes were full of worry, but she didn't say much. She didn't need to. I could feel her fear radiating from her, just like I felt my own. The neurologist had been so calm, so professional, but there was something in his eyes when he told us about the need for surgery. The words kept echoing in my head. "We need to operate. Now." The hospital staff moved quickly after the scan, almost too quickly. The urgency felt like it was suffocating me. My mind was spinning. Just yesterday, I was a track athlete, a runner who was at the top of her game. I had plans for the future, for races I wanted to win, for goals I was determined to reach. And now? Now I was lying in a hospital bed, unable to move my legs, unable to even understand what was happening to me. I kept replaying the neurologist's words. Weeks ago. What did he mean by that? Weeks ago? My mind reeled. If I hadn't noticed something sooner, could this have been prevented? Could I have avoided it if I paid more attention to my body? But it didn't make sense. Sure, I had felt off in the past few weeks, but nothing that made me think something was seriously wrong. Just muscle tightness, maybe a few strange moments when my legs felt a little weak after practice. I chalked it up to exhaustion. Was that really the beginning of all this? I tried to push the thought away, but it stuck to me like tar. Had I been ignoring my own body? Had I been pushing too hard, too fast, ignoring signs that something was seriously wrong? My mum's voice broke through my thoughts. "Do you have any idea what's going on with her?" she asked the doctor. Her voice was softer than usual, almost fragile, but I could hear the strength behind it. The neurologist looked at me and then at my mum. It's hard to say exactly. The MRI shows some unusual compression along her spine. It's not something that happened overnight. It's been building up for some time. But the good news is, with surgery, we can treat it, we can fix it. My stomach flipped at the word surgery. I wasn't prepared for that. No one had prepared me for this. A simple pain in my legs had turned into something much bigger, something I couldn't escape. I squeezed my mum's hand tighter, trying to find some comfort in her touch, but all I felt was fear. I wanted to ask the doctor more questions, wanted to know exactly what was going to happen to me, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, all I could think about was how everything I thought I knew about myself had just been ripped away. I had to have surgery. I had to trust that these strangers in white coats could fix me. But what if they couldn't? The doctor's words echoed in my mind as I was wheeled down a hallway to the operating room. "This needs to be done now. We can't afford to wait." What did that mean for me? What was happening to my body, my legs? My thoughts were scattered. I wasn't ready for surgery. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to give up control. The operating room was bright and sterile, and I could feel the coolness of the air on my skin as they prepped me for the procedure. Nurses moved around me like shadows, but I barely registered their actions. I was too consumed with the feeling of fear, of uncertainty. I tried to calm myself, but it wasn't working. Everything had spiraled so fast. One minute I was just tired after practice, and the next I was here. In this cold room, on the edge of something I didn't understand, facing a surgery I wasn't sure would fix me. My mum kissed my forehead before they wheeled me into the operating room. Her face was full of love, but there was so much fear behind her eyes that I couldn't look at her for too long. "I love you, Ollie," she whispered, as if the words were the only thing keeping us both tethered to reality. "I love you too," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. As they put me under anesthesia, I tried to hold on to that moment, tried to hold on to the sense of connection. But the darkness of sleep came quickly, and the last thing I remembered was the fear and uncertainty hanging in the air like a heavy fog. I woke up in a haze. The room was blurry, and my head felt heavy, as if I was sinking into a fog. My body felt numb. No, not numb. Different. Unfamiliar. My legs still there, still attached to me, felt like they didn't belong. My mind struggled to catch up with reality, and I blinked rapidly, trying to focus on the people standing around my bed. "You're awake," a nurse said softly, her voice reassuring. I tried to speak, but my mouth was dry, my throat sore. I wanted to ask about the surgery, about my legs, about everything, but the words wouldn't come. It was as though my body was still trapped somewhere far away, disconnected from my mind. "It's okay, Ollie," my mum said, sitting beside me. She was smiling, but there was a tightness around her eyes. "The surgery went well. You're going to be okay." I nodded slowly, the weight of her words pressing on my chest. "The surgery went well?" I wanted to repeat the words to make them real, but it didn't feel real. Not yet. As the fog lifted, I became more aware of my surroundings. The sterile white walls, the soft beeping of machines beside me, the bright light overhead. Everything felt distant, like I was in a dream that I couldn't quite wake from. The nurse checked the IV in my arm and adjusted the blankets around me. "You'll need some time to recover, but you'll be up and walking in no time. Just take it slow." Walking. That word made my heart skip a beat. Could I really walk again? Was it possible? I tried to move my legs, but nothing happened. Not even a twitch. Panic surged through me again, and I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to will them to move, to do something, but they didn't. "Ollie, don't push yourself," my mum warned gently. "The doctor said it will take time. It's a big surgery. You need to rest." I wanted to rest. I wanted to believe that everything would be fine. But the truth was terrifying. My legs weren't responding. The fear that I'd never walk again began to claw at my mind, sharper than any physical pain I could feel. What if the surgery hadn't worked? What if this was it? "I can't feel them, Mum," I said quietly, the words barely making it past my lips. "I can't move them." She looked at me, her eyes filled with sadness and love. "I know, baby. It'll take time. You just need to give it a little while. The doctor said you'll start physical therapy soon." I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make it all go away. How could I go from being an athlete, someone who pushed herself every day, to lying here, unable to move? I felt a sense of betrayal by my own body, as if it had turned against me when I needed it the most. The thought of physical therapy made me cringe. How long would it take before I could walk again? How long before I was back to the track, back to who I used to be? Would I ever get there? But as the hours passed, I started to feel a small shift. The tightness in my chest loosened just a little. I wasn't walking yet, but I wasn't alone. My mum was with me, holding my hand, whispering words of encouragement. I had to keep going. I had to trust that this was only the beginning of the road to recovery. I closed my eyes, the sound of my mum's voice calming me as I drifted back into sleep. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't giving up. I couldn't. Not yet. I woke up the next day, and the first thing I did was check my legs. They were still there, but nothing had changed. I tried to move them again, no response. It was like they were frozen in place. For a moment, I thought about giving up. The idea that I might never walk again hung in the back of my mind like a dark cloud. But then I remembered the promise the doctor had made. He told me the surgery went well. He told me that with time and therapy, I'd regain strength. But it didn't feel like that promise was enough. Not when I couldn't even feel my legs. The following days felt like an endless cycle of hope and despair. My mom stayed by my side, encouraging me to stay patient, but it was hard. Every time I tried to move my legs, I felt a sense of loss, as if I was drifting farther away from who I used to be. Every small improvement felt like it took 1,000 times more effort than it should have. But my mom, despite the tears in her eyes every time she looked at me, never gave up. She kept reminding me that I was strong, that we would get through this. Even when I felt like I was fading away, her voice kept me grounded. "Ollie, it's okay to feel scared," she said one evening as I sat in the hospital room staring at the white walls. "But you have to keep going. You're stronger than you think." Her words stayed with me, even in the darkest moments. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that I would walk again, that I would be able to run on the track again. But the fear kept creeping back in, like an unwanted guest. A few days later, I met with the physical therapist. She was a woman with short hair and a bright smile, but I could see the seriousness in her eyes. She wasn't going to sugarcoat things. She wasn't going to tell me everything was fine when it wasn't. "We're going to take it slow, Ollie," she said, adjusting the chair I was sitting in. "But you have to trust the process. It might take a while, but with time, we can get you back on your feet." I nodded, trying to focus on her words, but my mind was still racing. Back on my feet. I wasn't sure if I even remembered what it felt like to walk, let alone run. For the next few weeks, it felt like I was living in a world of small victories. Each time I moved my legs, even just a little bit, it felt like a mountain had been climbed. It was hard, so hard, but I kept pushing, kept reminding myself that if I could survive this, I could survive anything. There were moments when I wanted to give up, when the frustration and the pain seemed too much to handle. I felt like I was trapped in a body that didn't belong to me anymore. But then I remembered the track. I remembered the races I had run, the feeling of crossing the finish line, the adrenaline that came with every victory. And that thought kept me going. One day, during a physical therapy session, something happened. For the first time in weeks, I moved my foot. It wasn't much, just a small shift, but it was enough to make my heart race. I didn't care how small the movement was. It was a start. "Good," my therapist said with a nod. "That's progress." The next day, I took another small step, and another. Every day, I grew stronger. Slowly but surely, my legs began to respond again. It wasn't quick, and it wasn't easy, but I could feel the changes happening. The road to recovery wasn't just physical. It was emotional too. I had to come to terms with the fact that I wasn't the same person I was before the surgery. I wasn't the same person I was before. I couldn't feel my legs. But that didn't mean I couldn't get back to the things I loved. I had to let go of the fear. I had to believe that this wasn't the end. It was just a detour, a bump in the road. Weeks later, I stood up on my own for the first time. My legs felt wobbly, but they held me. I didn't care how shaky I was. I was standing, I was walking. I remember the moment so clearly. My mum was beside me, her face filled with pride and relief. The tears that welled up in her eyes were tears of joy. She had been there for me every step of the way, and now she was seeing me take a step of my own. "Look at you, Ollie," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You did it, and I did. I didn't know how long it would take until I could run again, until I could be the athlete I once was, but that didn't matter anymore. I had learned something more important. I had learned how to trust my body again, how to trust myself, and how to never give up, even when it felt impossible." My dad? He was there too. At first, he'd been skeptical. He didn't fully understand what I was going through, and it took him a while to stop treating it like a toughen up moment. But when he saw me taking those first steps on my own, when he saw the effort and the pain and the triumph, I could see it in his eyes. He understood now, and he was proud. More than he'd ever said before. There was no quick fix to my situation. The journey wasn't a straight line. It was messy, it was painful, and there were days when I thought I wouldn't make it. But I did. I got through it. And when the day came for me to run again, it was a moment I had dreamed of for months. The track felt different beneath my feet, but the adrenaline was the same. The same rush, the same feeling of freedom. I knew I would be okay. I knew I would keep pushing, keep fighting, because I wasn't done yet. I wasn't done with my body. I wasn't done with my dreams. I wasn't done with myself. Was it a mistake or is something different happening here? Let me know.